Hello, welcome to another Alpha Strike We Play video, and I'm joined by Taryn.
Hey guys.
We are going to be talking about artillery.
We did mention artillery before, but I don't think we actually discussed this particular rule in depth. So we're going to give it a crack. So shall I swoosh?
Swoosh.
This is direct fire artillery. Swoosh. Did you do a little...
I just did
little-
this. It was good.
The force of the swoosh.
That's right. It's got a lot of power behind it now.
Oh dear.
Right. So artillery, which everybody loves, let's face it.
Everybody
it's
loves
really
artillery.
useful in BattleTech. But
It is cool. Especially cruise missiles, but I'm not going to go there. I'll start to drool. I mean, look at that. A 120. So yeah, the primary use of artillery is indirect fire. So you can have them up to X number of map sheets away. What was it that, I think I worked it out. We mentioned it before. Yeah, the highest is 150. For the actual guns, the highest is about 30 map sheets. But you can technically fire artillery on the same map sheet, on the same board, and while looking at things.
yeah.
It is a bit weird though. So if something is 17 hexes away or less, and you don't have line of sight on it, you can technically still make indirect fire attacks.
Yeah.
Right.
But doesn't it add time or something?
No, because it's 17 hexes. As like one map sheet is 17.
17 by 15 wide, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're inside one map sheet with artillery, then and they don't have line of sight, then technically they can make an indirect fire attack. It follows the standard indirect fire
Right.
attack
Okay.
rules, right? It's like LRMing someone. But you can't have line of sight. If you have line of sight, then you've got problems. So you can technically do it on a sheet if you're 17 hexes or less, as long as you don't have line of sight. You modify the 2-hit number for attacker movement during the turn in which it fires. So if you move your long tom carrier for some bizarre reason, then you have to modify for the turn it fires.
Yep.
If you fire at targets more than 17 hexes away, then you use standard rules for indirect artillery fire, which is flight time and all that jazz, right? Because that technically counts as a map sheet away. So if you're within 17, then you're inside a map sheet. If you're outside 17, then you've got a map sheet between you, basically. So direct fire, in all instances, you start with attacker's gunnery skill as a base 2-hit number and a +4 2-hit modifier, right? So you've already got your gunnery skill for the artillery team, or the mech if you're using something like a Heliopus.
Heliopus? Yeah, Heliopus and the... there's another-
Sniper or Thumper? Is it Sniper in the
Oh, that's the... Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few of them that have artillery pieces, like cannons, not arrow 4. The arrow 4 is in like a catapult and all sorts of other stuff. But you start with the base 2-hit number of your gunnery skill +4 and apply all other modifiers. So all direct fire artillery attacks are made during the weapon attack phase. Cruise missiles cannot be used to make any of the following attacks. So you can't do any of this with cruise missiles, unfortunately.
Cruise missiles
They're
on a
really
single
cool.
mobile.
Within 1 hex, get a cruise 120 and just...
Just run up and hug them and press the button.
Hey, buddy! As noted in the indirect artillery flight times, any direct fire artillery attack lands in the same turn it was made. So there's no
Yeah,
flight
so
time.
no flight time per se. Yeah, that
it's
makes
it's only when you go out to indirect that it has it. So artillery unit must have line of sight to the target hex, right? Not unit, target hex. Target hex must be no further than 17 hexes away. Do not modify the 2-hit number for range, target movement, terrain of the target hex, or immobile targets. The base 2-hit number is modified normally for the attacker's movement and for firing through, not into, woods and other terrain features.
Okay.
Okay, so you start with your gunnery +4, then you've got to modify it for your movement and for firing through woods and other terrain features.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah.
Ooh.
Because you're shooting at a hex, you're not technically trying to hit a person or a unit. You're trying to hit a hex.
It's a saturation weapon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, addressed to whom it may concern rather than a specific person.
This is not the bullet with your name on it. This is the bullet with everybody around you.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So direct fire has no flight time. If the attack hits the target hex, the shell or missile inflicts standard artillery damage, including damage to adjacent hexes, as well as any other effects if applicable. If the round misses its target, it scatters as described in targeting, which I'm pretty sure we went through, but only 1d6 is rolled to determine distance. So
you roll a d6 for direction,
and then you roll for... it's margin of failure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but instead of margin of failure, you're using a d6 for distance as well as direction.
Gosh. If you've got something that hits the hex and everything around it, I don't know. If there's enough of the enemy, you probably wouldn't care. You just empty the clip or something.
Well, if you crank your long tom down to flat and just go blam, you've got some pretty solid stuff happening. Well, high explosive standard in a long tom is 25 to the hex it hits, 15 to the ones around it, and 5 to the ones around that.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah.
So if you've got your infantry that are not in cover as well, yeah, poor infantry.
Poor infantry. We've shown what happens to infantry that get on the wrong end of stuff that hurts infantry.
Everything. Poor things. We were all excited to do like series on infantry and talk about how good they are, and they're just getting shot and blown up by everything.
Just get massacred.
Murdered.
Yeah. When making a direct fire artillery attack, if the target is within 6 hexes, the attack cannot be made.
Ah, okay.
So minimum range is ignored when making point blank attacks. Now, point blank attacks are from 259 on Total Warfare, and basically you can only make a point blank attack with artillery if they haven't previously fired or moved.
Okay, so they have to spend a turn not doing anything, essentially.
No, they can't do anything in the scenario.
So the
whole scenario, if they haven't moved or fired, then they can do a point blank attack.
Get one time. Yeah,
but
fair enough.
I don't know why you would want to do that with artillery. I mean, the whole point is to have it firing pretty much constantly so you can narrow down and saturate an area sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But technically, if you want to do this, you could hide your artillery in a building. Don't do anything with it. Don't move it. Don't shoot with it. And then when someone walks next to you, you can point blank attack.
25 points. There's a naughty boy. Bang!
Boom! And everybody around you blows it. Oh, wait, that's me.
Takes out some of your building. Well, the building would help.
A building would help.
Help you.
There is a special rule here for bore sighting, which is a version of careful aim, which is one of the specialised rules that we've been going through in the workshop videos. We've done extreme range, we've done bracing, and I think we touched on a couple of the others, but this one is careful aim. So basically what it means is you can spend time, instead of actually shooting, you can spend time to get yourself a modifier. You're aiming carefully. There's a bunch of different ways this gets done, but it's basically the same thing in every turn-based tactics game that you get. There's always a way for you to modify your attack number or power or something like that by spending time instead of doing it, right? So in BattleTech, you are allowed to, instead of firing your weapons, a unit can spend the weapon attack phase of a turn taking careful aim on a single target within its line of sight. While taking careful aim, the unit may make neither weapon nor physical attacks, nor may it expend MP. So you have to stand there and sight someone.
Okay.
Okay.
But you're not immobile. It says you don't spend movement, but you're not considered immobile.
I don't think you are considered immobile, no.
Okay. Well, at least that's a good thing.
Yeah. For every consecutive weapon attack phase the unit spends taking careful aim, apply a -1/2 hit modifier to any weapon attacks against the chosen target. Maximum of -3. And you use that up as soon as you fire. If the aiming unit moves, switches target, or fails a piloting skill roll, or if the target moves out of line of sight before any weapon attacks are made, careful aim is interrupted and any accumulated bonus is lost. So you have to be very careful with this. So all they have to technically do is break line of sight with you for that weapon attack phase, and you're done.
Okay. So immobile structures and things like that would be very useful.
Yep.
Very useful.
Yep.
Now that's an optional rule we're talking about here.
This is
everything we've sort of talked about.
Yeah, they're all optional rules. Direct fire artillery is kind of part of the artillery, but technically artillery is an optional rule.
Yeah, true.
It's part of TAC Ops. It's optional. You don't have to use it. No. Right? And direct fire for artillery is an optional rule for artillery. If you've been watching the rules discussions that we've done, you've seen bracing and all the other ones. This is careful aim is another one of them. You can't careful aim with pulse or rapid fire or HAGs or LBX, right? And targeting computers apply their standard modifier when used in conjunction with careful aim. So technically, if you aim for 3 turns and you've got a targeting computer, you can technically get a -4 when you eventually shoot. Okay? So, bore sighting, getting back to artillery, bore sighting is a version of careful aim that you can use with an artillery weapon.
No.
So, all the rules for careful aim apply. So you have to keep sighting it. You have to not lose line of sight in the weapon attack phase. You can't move, all that sort of stuff. It all applies. The weapon may not fire until the target is within 17 hexes. So you can technically be sighting them while they're 2 or 3 map sheets away and moving towards you. As soon as they get within 17 hexes, you're allowed to shoot, but not until then.
Yeah.
Right? If the artillery fires before it's within, you resolve it as a standard indirect artillery attack, and all accumulated modifiers are lost. So you don't get your careful aim unless they're within range. To make a bore sighting attack with 1 or more military artillery units, the controlling player must secretly write down which units are bore sighting and specify the target for each unit. When the attacker uses their artillery weapons, you turn over the piece of paper to show the defending player which units are attacking, how long they have been bore sighting, and which defending units are being attacked. And then you make your direct fire artillery attack with your modifiers.
Right, there you go.
So you can build like a fortress wall thing that's got like lots of line of sight. You can have the enemy coming towards you a couple of map hexes away. You can do a couple of indirect shots while they're out there. And then when they're a couple of turns away, you just go...
You just bring it down if they're silly enough to come running down.
And you write down, okay, this one's targeting the awesome... Boop. This one's targeting the I don't know, Highlander. Boop. And you've got 2 long toms here just building up minuses for when they finally shoot those 2 big units. It's pretty cool.
25 points of damage though, even on an assault mech. That's a lot of damage.
Well, I mean, it's enough to cause a tip over.
True.
You can tip people over with 20 points. And if you're playing the optional rule that means that you accumulate those, that is another optional rule that you can do. So every 20 points you take gives you a +1 to that roll. Normally, rules as written, you only get the +1 for taking 20 or more
just
points.
20 or more +1.
Yeah.
Roll situation +1.
But if you want to up it a bit, there is technically an optional rule. I don't know where it is. It might be TAC Ops, it might be in Total War, but it's out there somewhere. But there is an optional rule that says that every 20 points you take gives you another +1. So you get, say, 25 points, you get a +1. You get 42 points, you get a +2.
Yeah.
So it gets harder and harder. The more damage you're taking in a single turn, it gets harder and harder for you to stay up.
It sort of makes sense.
It does,
really, because it's a lot of damage. You're getting hit with a lot of things, so your pilot would have to focus a bit more. But I mean, for the sake of speeding up the game, just a standard.
I think it's easier.
Yeah.
I mean, the ability. I mean, focus fire, obviously, but the ability to do more than about 40 points in a single turn to a single unit.
Yeah.
Is it's not something that comes along very often. But you can do it, so it is an optional rule if you want to chuck it in there. But yeah, so that was technically direct firing your artillery,
which is handy to be able to do.
Yeah,
let's face it.
You can also use them as flak, which is kind of cool. But we haven't really gone into aerospace yet, and you can use it as flak against aerospace. So
and just VTOLs, I think, as
Yeah.
well. So which we have done some videos on VTOLs and sort of how Flak works with them a little bit, but
so you can technically use an artillery unit located on the playing area to fire directly, which is direct fire, at airborne ground units. So VTOLs, Wiggies, and units expending VTOL movement points, which gets your infantry and your flying battle armor in trouble. You declare that you're firing at the unit, have a valid line of sight to the target unit, resolve the attack as normal for an artillery direct fire attack, per the rules in direct fire artillery. Apply a +3 modifier. Ignore the regular modifiers for using type F weapons or making a direct fire attack. And only other modifiers applied are for the firing unit's movement and current damage, and any intervening jungles and woods and all that sort of stuff. If firing at an airborne aerospace unit, you've got modifiers for that, but that doesn't matter. So technically, you're ignoring the VTOL's movement or the
target's movement model.
So technically, you're ignoring the target's movement, which is just insane.
It means that it doesn't really matter where they move. If you've got a line of sight to them, you can do the flak attack with that stuff.
Yeah. A direct artillery has to be within 17, so you have to be on the same map sheet as them, basically. But you do not modify the 2-hit number for range, target movement, terrain of the target hex, or an immobile target. So when you're shooting at a flak one, then you get that,
Well, a target number of what, say 8 or 9 or something, is I mean that's still a bit high. But considering how fast these VTOLs that can move with everything else, you're far better off with that.
Yeah, your damage then I think spreads out from, like, if you hit, it hits the area and you get the flak attack sort of thing. So, but there's only air defense arrows, arrow 4 non-homings, which you can't use anyway for direct fire, so I don't know why I'm reading them out, but these are F units.
Yeah.
There's a cluster one for the cannons. There's a copperhead counts. No, copperhead doesn't count. High explosive counts.
Ooh.
That's it. So you've got cluster and high explosive are the only two that count as F. So you'd have to actually have them as a ton of them in your artillery unit.
And you have to declare which one you're going to fire as per normal with everything else.
But there's another use for artillery.
Can I use that? Can I just show that on here?
Yeah. So that's the.
So I'll just bring that up here on the
thingy.
So this is the old cover, Tactical Operations.
It's probably the old version too.
Yeah. So page was at 185.
Yeah.
184 and 5. Yep. So direct fire artillery, bore sighting. It's all there. It's quite a good book, isn't it?
If you want optional rules and extra twiddly bits, then TAC Ops is a really good option. It's really cool. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And you can put these in piecemeal. You can just say, okay, we're going to use bracing this time. We're going to use energy weapon throttling this time. We're going to use careful aim this time. Blah, 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 blah. You don't have to chuck everything in the book in. But like I say, all of this is optional. So we didn't really go through this when we did normal artillery. So I thought we may as well just
talk a little bit more on it.
Because
so
it puts off me having to talk about aerospace. There's a lot of stuff for aerospace.
All right, so there we go. So that was a little bit more information on artillery for BattleTech. So if you found this useful, consider subscribing. Click the little bell. And we do have a sale happening right now for
Should be
stock
happening
take.
now.
Yep. So head on there to alphastrike.com.au and grab yourself some little bargains. That's what it's all about. Yes.
Do it.
All right, everyone.
All good.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.